Thanksgiving begins a very special time of the year for us. It's the time of peace and reflection, and of getting ready for the new year. One thing we should all be thankful for is that we live in America, where we have the freedom to change things and the opportunity to...
Welcome to the Drunk Turkey Show, starring Big Blue.
Okay, can I say hi, Kim?
Hi. Oh, I love you. You are just like a giant.
Lady Liberty just squirted in my face. And when you do drink with a straw, the myth is you get more drunk because you get more air mixed in.
Hi, Maggie.
Like, you know how the fans going like this? It goes, ooh, yeah. When it hits my butthole. Last time I went to Mexico, I stopped by a little stand and the lady had gloves. I was like, lady, take off those gloves. I need that shit.
It wasn't.
Why not drinking beer so you can feel good and like it tastes good? What the hell's the point of this?
And Daniel J.
I got a friend named Jonathan Martinez who's not allowed in the library. Yo puede hablar español cuando yo te mando. You look very handsome tonight, LJ.
Every day, it's an everyday thing. I gotta
wake up. This is excellence.
Y'all watch them every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. I get to see them every day. I get to see that. I get to see those chicks every day. And what's on his face?
And the other ones.
From the year 3000, it still sucks. This is Philip J. Fry, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show. I'm Daniel J. Going in solo today. Big Blue is off chasing wild turkeys, and Jaime is out in the woods doing his thing as well. So if you guys can hear me, let me know in the comment section if I'm sounding all right. I didn't get a chance to test everything out. If I do sound good, please hit that like button. If I don't, let me know in the live chat. I appreciate it. We have quite a few guys already in here, 152 of you guys. Wow. Appreciate it. I appreciate it 100%. Thank you guys so much for being here early. Good morning. It's an exciting day for me. First and foremost, here in about an hour and a half or so. So I'm only going to be going for about 45 minutes or so. If y'all aren't aware, my wife is pregnant. We're expecting a baby any moment now, actually. We have a doctor's appointment today, so we get to go see the baby. And then a little bit later, I'm a huge Steelers fan, is the NFL draft. So it's an exciting day for me. Thank you guys. Thank you for letting me know that I sound good. I appreciate that. Appreciate that 100%. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and follow the whole 9 yards. So today what I wanted to do with you guys is just basically see what you guys had any thoughts, maybe do some brainstorming, some thinking on some of these things, talk about what's been recently put into motion, maybe theorize on those things. And the first thing we definitely need to talk about, kind of go into more detail, are these exhibits that had came out referencing Bethany Grace Funk. A lot of folks have been talking about this, including, what was it? Let me pull it up real quick. The Mirror basically stating that there was a naked man running outside, some of that nature. We'll get into that too. But first and foremost, let's talk about this situation here. So in this document here, referencing Bryan Kohberger, this talks about Bethany Funk possibly having, some kind of evidence that could maybe perhaps point to Bryan Kohberger being innocent. So let's look at some of this. This is from Richard Buttigieg. I hope I said that right. I know there's an extra T there. I may not have pronounced that right. I know some of you guys get on to me about pronunciations. It is what it is. I'm not from the area, and things happen. So let's get into it. So this goes in to say that Bethany Funk was interviewed by police on several occasions. She disclosed things that she heard and saw. So whatever evidence that she may know has to have been out of those conversations that the defense is looking at, right? Now, she has left the Idaho area. She is in Nevada. So I assume that the defense team hasn't had an opportunity to talk to her. They've agreed to an interview. So all the information that the defense team has when it comes to Bethany Funk is probably out of the discovery. And so when it comes to, that probably means there are only witness statements based on what she saw and what she heard. So whatever evidence that is exculpatory or exonerating is out of those witness statements. And these statements would be in the hands of not only the prosecution, but the police department, as I would assume that the police and the FBI and law enforcement are the ones that collected those statements. And, I don't believe in coincidences. I don't like coincidences, especially when there's a case going on. And that goes for both sides of the street, right? When it comes to Coburger, I don't like the fact that he was out and about around the time of the murders. He was in a vehicle that was seen around that is very similar to the vehicle that was seen in the area. His phone was off during the time of the commission of the crime, DNA on the sheath. Those things that kind of lead to his direction. I don't like those coincidences. I also don't like the coincidence where, on March 22nd, this is when the initial subpoena for Bethany Funke came out, stating that she had some exonerating evidence. The same day is when the Giglio Brady issue comes forward, and the very next day, the defense team is asking for more discovery. I don't like those coincidences. Those, to me, lead me to believe that there's something going on here. And in my opinion, it's scary. It's scary because not only does it affect this case, like let's just say whether or not Coburger is innocent or guilty, whoever is guilty or whoever ends up being found to be guilty or whoever did commit this crime, because of this type of stuff and language that's in this case, it's going to make this case a very difficult one to prosecute. Even if, for instance, let's just say they say it wasn't Coburger, there's going to be a line of reasonable doubt for anybody that comes after this. And that's just extremely unfortunate. We have to think about the families and the victims here and think about how justice needs to be served and correctly with whoever and whomever committed this crime, not just to get somebody off the street and put them in jail for no reason. Now, like I said, I don't know, me personally, if somebody were to ask me to put a bet on this case, which way I would go is based on the information that we have now, is he innocent, is he guilty? I probably wouldn't take that bet. A couple of weeks ago, maybe immediately after the arrest of Bryan Kohberger for about maybe 6 weeks, I probably would have sided extremely with law enforcement side. But because of all this information that's coming out, I'm going to be 110% honest with you guys. I don't like it. And so this thing states here, or this subpoena or documentation states here that Coburger is alleged to have entered the house around 4 a.m. while 6 people were asleep and present, taking the life of 4 and in 2 separate rooms. People whose lives were taken were located in 2 bedrooms, one on the 2nd floor and the other on the 3rd. Bethany Funk, his bedroom is on the 1st floor. The other surviving roommate's bedroom was on the 2nd floor. Bethany Funk was interviewed by police on several occasions, disclosing things she heard and things she saw. Bethany Funk was present at the home for 8 hours later, or was present at the home 8 hours later when police were called, arrived on scene, and discovered the homicides. It doesn't say that Bethany was present throughout the entire night. Now, these folks would know that based on her statements, right? They would know if she claimed to have been there or not. I don't understand why it says that she was present at the home 8 hours later. Why not say Bethany was present throughout the night, including at the home 8 hours later when police were called? Kind of makes you think that maybe perhaps, and then we could just be thinking too much into it. Did she leave? Did she go with somebody? What happened there? But she was back by 8 o'clock. And remember, there was reports at 9 a.m. that neighbors saw the front door wide open. Right? Let's see. During the course of my investigation, it became known to me that Bethany Funk has information material to the charges against Coburger. Portions of information Ms. Funk has is exculpatory to the defendant. Ms. Funk's information is unique to her experiences and cannot be provided by other witnesses. So whatever happened didn't happen at Sigma Chi, because there would be more witnesses and more individuals that would have that experience that could provide that information. So whatever it is that she saw or heard, only she saw and heard based on whatever statement that she put out there. To me, this still means, like, the biggest, the most easiest answer for me when it comes to this case is she saw somebody, or she identified or heard somebody else and identified their voice, maybe recognized somebody's voice that was there. Or she would have to put Bryan Kohberger somewhere else. Which begs the difference, or the question, when was law enforcement aware of Bryan Kohberger? We know that they were aware of him at least by November 25th, when Washington State University Police Department went through and, found his information and saw that he was in the, their record books as owning a White Elantra. And we know by the 29th of November is when they turned over that piece of information. Now, a lot of folks are saying that maybe perhaps Bethany was in a relationship with Coburger, or Bethany left with Coburger. I don't think that's the case. Because if that were the case, that would put Coburger at the scene at the time. So if Coburger went and picked up Bethany at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, 3:30, whatever the time may be, 4:20, whatever, right? If he left and picked her up there and she told and notified police, because remember, this information didn't come from anybody but more than likely, and like what it says there earlier, information that she had stated to police. So the police would be aware of that information, that Coburger was on the scene at that time, and they would have that in the probable cause, because that would be pretty damning information to know that this person was at the residence. Makes sense? I think that makes sense. And so to me, I don't think that she's putting Coburger elsewhere. I don't think she's putting herself with Coburger. I think that the most logical explanation for it is that she recognized somebody else's voice. Somebody who may have been a prime suspect early on. Maybe somebody that she knows and is familiar with their voice. Heard, Dylan Mortenson had came out and stated that, she had heard voices. She heard somebody say, "I'm here to help." Now, I don't think that her testimony is basically going to go against what Dylan said. I know there's the whole surviving roommate saw a naked guy running out the back window or the back door. That doesn't exclude or exonerate Coburger. Even if let's just say, for instance, her statements contradict whatever Dylan may say. Let's just say she stated something differently. Maybe she said that the person ran out the front door and that's why the front door was open. That still doesn't exclude Coburger. Those things don't exonerate him. None of those things take that position out of the situation. Right? And so to me, the most logical explanation is that if it is evidence that they believe that is unique to her experiences, based on what she saw and what she told the police, would be that she identified somebody else's voice, or may have stated something to the effect, "I think I heard John Doe in the house. It sounded like John Doe. We know of John Doe. It sounded like him." Now, maybe police went and tried to locate John Doe, and for whatever reason, maybe he had an alibi or whatever the case may be, and they didn't investigate him to the effect, or maybe they think that maybe perhaps because of that, Bethany Funk is just misinformed or misidentified somebody, right? And so, with all that being said, that's my logical thing when it comes to that. Let's see what you guys have to say. I'm going to go through some of these comments. I know they're coming in quick. I'm going to scan through them and see if there's something that pops my eye. Let's see. I'll thank you for all those that are saying congratulations. I appreciate that. In fact, there was a chance that we almost didn't do the live last night. If you guys haven't checked the live last night, we had we're covering the Amy Malavik case as well. And we had a friend of hers come on the show and kind of give her experience from back in the day, from 1989 when she was 10 years old. And, we're trying to get some information out to the public in reference to that case because we believe that we know who is one of the persons that police were looking at that haven't yet put the name out there. And his name is William McClellan out of Vermillion, Ohio. Let's see. Congratulations. I appreciate it. So, yeah, I mean, even if he was running naked, let's just say, and here's the thing about the running naked aspect about it. If he doesn't have any clothes, let's just say this person committed this crime. Why would he be naked? One, maybe perhaps he took his clothes off after committing the crime and put them in a bag and ran out. That way he doesn't transfer blood into his car or DNA into his car. He took in a plastic bag, but I mean, maybe that makes sense. But you leave the opportunity of leaving way more DNA behind, right? So that's the only thing that I can think of. Even at that, even if he was naked running out the house, that still doesn't mean that it's not Coburger that's running naked, right? And so unless the person that they identify that's running naked is of a completely different race or something like that, then okay, maybe. But just saying that they saw a man running naked does not, lead me to believe that. But if it was Coburger and he was running naked, that would explain, like, perhaps maybe he took a bag with him and put all his clothes into that bag and ran outside naked in the freezing cold to his car and got in his car, maybe perhaps had a pair, change of clothes ready in his car, jumped in it and took off and had the bloody clothes in the trunk in a plastic bag. That could make sense, but it doesn't exonerate Coburger. It might go against what maybe Dylan had said. It definitely goes against what Dylan had said, but that still doesn't exonerate Coburger, in my opinion. Let's see. I have kids already. This is not my first, but my wife's first. Let's see. I thought to start with, Funk had not seen or heard anything. They just didn't put anything in the probable cause affidavit. So what the probable cause affidavit states is that she puts Ethan and Xana at Sigma Chi throughout a certain period of the night, and that they did a records dump on her phone and Mortenson's phone and discovered that the incident may have occurred around this time. And they corroborate that with the vehicle that was driving around the same time and the audio from the surveillance camera that's nearby that picked up the thud and the voices and the whimpering. And so you have all that corroborating evidence to basically narrow the time of when this incident had occurred. Let's see. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Heather goes, I agree to all of the Daniel 100%. Thank you. Thank you. Now, if she recognized somebody, it had to be somebody that they knew, somebody close. It's not, somebody who's not related to this or not close to these individuals in this house, in my opinion. You would assume that the person that if she was able to recognize a voice or somebody that she had seen was somebody that she knew. It's very interesting. Let's see. I don't know why it's not letting me show this comment. Oh man, my comments aren't coming up, so I'm just gonna have to read them. Oh, there they go. I don't think she has any evidence to exonerate him. They just want to hear her testify that she didn't see him in the house. Her word against Dylan's. Maybe. I mean, here's the other thing. Like, They, as in they meaning the defense, as the discovery too. And this is something that's also kind of bothered me a little bit. They had the discovery, which would include the results of the search warrant of his car and the results of, the brake pedal, the gas pedal, the headrest, the visor, all the pieces that they took out to test for DNA. I don't know what their angle would be with this to try to exonerate him if they had that evidence there, and that could, lead him to being convicted fairly easily. But I mean, it's possible they don't have any evidence and this is just some sort of bluff, I guess. I don't know. I know a judge was going to force her to go to court. I wonder if that judge was privileged or previewed this information when they made their ruling on forcing her to go to court, up until the point they decided to agree to meet in an interview. And that way they can have it quashed. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, our email is drunkturkeyshow@gmail.com. Thank you so much, Erica. Let's see. Me and my law enforcement expert friend reviewed videos of car. We identified 4 different white vehicles. One was a Kia. They cannot identify cars as belonging to BK. Fact. And let me pull this up. I got some information, not some information, but I got some videos that let's play real quick referencing this car. Now, this is from the Moscow Police Department. This is a James Fry interview at 12/8/2022.
First, start by explaining why this search for this white vehicle.
So we have information of a white vehicle that was in the area either during the time frame of the homicide or around the time frame of the homicide, and we are just wanting to talk to the individuals who are in that vehicle. They may have some valuable information for us, and we're looking for a 2011 to a 2013 Hyundai Elantra.
So they're looking for a 2011 to a 2013 Hyundai Elantra. This is 12/8/22. Now, at this point, they were already aware of who Bryan Kohberger was. Why they didn't expand that search, I don't know. Now, if you go and listen to the Howard Bloom article, you go read the Howard Bloom article, who's a journalist author who who wrote an article, and it's in our playlist as well. We covered it. They talk about Chief Fry was excited about the white Elantra in Eugene. Now, that vehicle was found in, I want to say it was December 20th or the 19th. By then, Coburger was already in the Pocono Mountains in Pennsylvania. And we know, based on the stops that they had, and that they were watching him. Now, I truly suspect that they were watching several people. We also know that there was police presence outside the Sigma Chi house for a while there after while Bryan Kohberger was on the loose, so to speak. And so I strongly suspect they were watching several different cars. And my thing is, why at this point, which is over a week after knowing who Kohberger is, knowing what vehicle he drives, knowing the year, make, model that it is, that is a 2015, why didn't they not expand that? All this was doing was giving them information of that was possibly not accurate. And well, obviously, if Bryan Kohberger ends up being the guy, it was all the tips and everything else that came in for a 2011 or 13 Elantra was definitely inaccurate. And for those that think that, they were just saying that so that they, can, allow Kohberger to get some sort of false sense of security and slip up, I highly doubt that. Reason being is because you're flooding your tips in there, and, instead of putting out there an accurate information, you could possibly get somebody to tip in and say, hey, you know what? I know this person. This person has that vehicle. They live in my apartment complex and they were gone that night. I saw this guy cleaning out this car. It was a 2015 Elantra at this gas station car wash over here. There might be some evidence there in the trash cans, things of that nature, right? This was fairly early, still, and he was Coburger was still doing some pretty weird things around this time. Well, let's continue.
So any assistance you can give us, anybody that owns one, anybody that knows of someone who owns one or may have been driving one, if you could get a hold of us through our tip line or call us directly, we'd appreciate that.
This body cam image and the white car. Is this the white car investigators are looking for?
So the body cam image that is out there from an officer who was on a call with alcohol offense does have a white vehicle in it. This is not the vehicle that we are looking for. So we want to clear that up with all news media.
And finally, the tip line, the process. What do you want to tell the public about that?
So the tip line now will go to an FBI call center. We've done that because we started receiving many tips, and that call center can categorize those, and they can send those tips back to investigators so we can follow up and make sure that we continue with our investigation.
Like I said, it created a lot of tips, so many tips that they had to send it off also to the FBI. You know, you don't want to bury good information amongst that. You really don't. So I find it very, impractical and kind of puts you in a bit of a hole when you put out information that's wrong, inquiring tips off that information. You know what I'm saying? We have a new member. Thank you so much. Does it let me show? Yeah, it does over here. New member AZ, welcome to the Drunk Turkey Show membership. You get access to some emojis. You get access to our members only live, which we'll be doing this weekend. We're having a members only live, not just a live chat, but the actual live, where we'll be, taking your questions and answering as many possible live member questions as we possibly can in a matter of an hour or so. Fridays, we also have a members only live chat for half of that show. And tomorrow, I believe we're going to be giving away a beanie and some stickers. So make sure you guys tune in. So, like I said, in this situation here, this December 8th, they're looking for that white Elantra. They already know who Coburger is. The probable cause affidavit indicates that initially they thought it was a 2011 to 13 Elantra. When did they change their mind that it could have been a 2015? Was that after Coburger had left, after, the vehicle in Eugene just didn't seem to be the right one, so then they just focused on Coburger? I'm not sure. And if that ends up being the case, then that leads me to believe that there's probably not as much evidence out there that a lot of people are alluding to, as far as that we don't know up until the point of the arrest. Now, when it comes to like the probable cause affidavit, it kind of lays out what they did, on the 29th, of November. They figured out who he was. It wasn't until December 23rd that they pulled his phone records. They actually didn't do anything to Coburger other than probably just watch him up until that point. Now, the evidence that they used to pull his phone records was his Reddit account that he had and the survey that he put out there, that he was asking people for their, emotional description of their emotions during the commission of a violent crime, and how they picked out their victims and things of that nature. However, he was a psychology, criminologist type of, student. You would assume that those are some of the questions you probably would need to answer in those type of courses. They utilized the fact that he had experience in retrieving or in technical data for law enforcement. In fact, he had written an essay to one of the departments there. I can't remember if it was Pullman or Moscow, to be an intern and wanting to assist in rural areas collecting those type of technical data. And so because of those things, they assumed that he would have turned off his phone during that time. They also, checked the phone tower, and this is probably why they didn't, go at him as hard early, is they had all the phones that were connected to the cell tower, or the phone numbers that were connected to the cell phone tower nearest the residence. And once they got his phone number from that citation, or that he had received for, can't remember what, in Moscow, they checked it with their records that they had from the cell phone tower, and it wasn't connected because his phone was off. And so they say, well, during the commission of the crime, some people with experience or knowledge in how to hide themselves from law enforcement would turn their phone off. And so that was the evidence that they required to get their warrant. I don't know if that's enough, in my opinion, especially based on his background, but a judge signed off on it. They got it, and they figured out that his phone was off during that time. And so that led them to the 27th, where they collected his DNA out of the trash. That DNA was then compared and found to be the father of the person who left the DNA on the knife sheath. Right. Now, this next video is from 2015. December 15, 2022. Sorry, numbers I get backwards often. This is referencing the white Elantra 2011 to 2013. So this is still referencing 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra. They never came out with anything saying other than it was a 2011 to 13 Elantra. Let's listen to what Lanier has to say.
Take us back when investigators first started asking for video. What sources were you asking to get video from?
Well, we started looking for video the day of the crime. Officers on scene, before I even arrived, had identified certain residences in the area that had video cameras. We know just from past experience that security cameras, doorbell cameras, and the like are very, very commonplace now. And that's a part of our standard procedures to start looking for a possible video source in and around crime scenes. So we started the day of the crime. And then that expanded as we got more investigators to the area for assistance, and we started putting together teams. And one of our team's sole job was to go through the King Road area, associated neighborhoods, and eventually the main thoroughfares in the city of Moscow, trying to identify videos, video cameras, etc., and then contact those business owners, contact those residents, and ask for copies of that video.
And initially, there was a particular area outlined as where the priority was for asking for video. Why was that area selected?
Well, that area was selected because essentially it surrounds the King Road area. And we know that people typically have to travel to and from. We weren't trying to pigeonhole our investigation into the suspect lives in the area. We wanted to make sure that we covered all the bases. And so as we began to gather more information, we began to expand our search area. You may recall from the second press conference that we specifically put out a plea to the public for any video in the King Road area, and then we gave a defined area, and we put that area on our website as well, asking residents, hey, if you have video or if your neighbor has video, let us know so we can get a copy of that. We understand that video has a finite life, and sometimes systems will start recording over themselves. So we started that process very, very early in the investigation.
Why ask the public for additional help with this white car?
Well, through our tips, through our leads, some of the evidence that came in, we start to identify patterns. And like we said earlier, we are confident that the occupant or occupants of that vehicle have information that's critical to this investigation. We also understand that even though there's sometimes a fascination with a particular case, some people simply don't see the news and may not know that we're looking for it. So if we get the word out there, hey, maybe your neighbor has one in the garage that they don't drive very often. Maybe there's one that's just not on the registration database, let us know. So far, we have a list of approximately 22,000 registered white Hyundai Elantras that fit into our criteria that we're sorting through. That's an awful lot of information, but it may not be all of them. So the public can help us with that.
Muted. My bad, guys. I didn't mean to do that. So let me refresh what I was saying. back to what I was saying. Basically, when it came to what they were saying, they had 22,000 white Elantras. They had that were 2013 or 2011 to 2013 that were met that criteria, right? This was December 15th. They still hadn't come out looking for any other vehicles. So I'm assuming that's only 2011 to 13. If you expand that to 2016, how many more white Elantras in the area that would match that criteria? So there's a lot there. As far as was it an active dope house or not, man, my StreamYard is acting up today. I'm trying to pull up comments and it won't let me. I'm clicking the button. Bill Bradley goes, was this a dope dealer house or not? You know, there was a lot of turnover in this house. There was a lot of occupants in this house from one semester to the next. It doesn't, you know, there was a possibility. Now it pops up when I don't click it. From one situation to the next, there was that from one semester to the next, the occupants could have switched. You know, there was a party where there was at least 150 people in that house relatively soon or prior to the incident. If we're to believe that no drugs were consumed, sold, recreationally consumed, whatever the case may be, in that house throughout any period of time, it's probably wrong. And do I think it was an active house where people can go pull up and buy narcotics of some kind? I don't think so. But I don't know. I mean, it's possible. You know, a lot of people look at folks and they take their images or, you know, their appearance and try to say, oh, no, that person doesn't look like the type of person that would sell drugs or narcotics or whatever the case may be. And I can tell you for a fact that, you know, not too long ago in this area, somebody's grandma got busted, you know, selling dope. There's been a situation where at the border, there was this little old lady who was going back and forth to Mexico and going back into Texas or into the United States, Texas, and had made friends with some of the Border Patrol agents. And she would come back with bricks. And on top of the bricks, wrapped in foil, was a couple of tamales packages, right? And they were also wrapped in foil. And she would give some to the Border Patrol agents. And one day, somebody decided to check the rest of those packages and they found bricks of cocaine. So, you know, appearance and where people come from, who their family are, all those type of things have no bearing on what a person can do, especially when we don't know who these people are. Like we don't know any of these people personally. And so you'll be surprised at some of the people that do certain things. Now, I'm no way indicating that any of these people were. I'm just saying I have no idea. But there's been rumors, and not just from, for instance, Kim had came forward saying that it was a trap house. Ian Harsh had came forward saying that there was rumors early on in the area that the rumors in Moscow was that this was drug related of some sort. You know, there's been that rumor since the beginning of this case. You can't take it out of question, but, you know, I will ask, where's the evidence of it? And some people are going to point to the fact that 911 wasn't called for 8 hours. And it's a good point. It is. Let's see. What else do we have in here? Man, this thing is really upsetting me when it comes to this StreamYard. Do any of you guys, if you guys are content creators, I'm thinking about switching from StreamYard to Streamlabs. If you guys use Streamlabs, please contact me. I could use some help getting that thing up and going. StreamYard, there it goes. I clicked that thing like almost a minute ago and it finally goes up. Let me know. I'd love to get with you so you can help me transition from StreamYard to Streamlab, because this is becoming annoying. So this goes, Misty Barger says, what if it's sorry, I'm reading this all jacked up. What if it's that while Bethany was that it's what Bethany saw and heard at the Sigma house? That's why they're questioning it. Maybe it was somebody threatened to Ethan there and they tried. So basically what I think you're trying to say there is, what if it was something that happened at Sigma Chi? You know, she was at Sigma Chi and she put these guys there. You know, the paperwork says that it is unique. The information that she has is unique to her and to her experiences. You know, I would assume that there would be other people at Sigma Chi at that party that would have seen something like that. So my assumption is it possible? Maybe, yeah. But I would think that if it is unique to her and unique to only her, then that information or that evidence is probably something, and it says based on something she saw or heard, indicates that maybe she is identifying somebody else at that house based on what she saw, or maybe recognized their voice when what she heard. Let's see. I thought it was the very first one that came out. It said Bethany returned home the next morning and was outside. She was outside with the crowd. That's what I've heard and read as well in several documents, that she was outside. Certain news media, and you got to take that with a grain of salt, because the news is, I'm not too fond of mainstream media right now. But they're indicating that at one point, I can't remember which one, that she never went upstairs, that she was with the crowd outside. She didn't go upstairs. She never saw the carnage or any of those things. And so that she went from her room to outside. I don't know how true that is. And this is why I don't like mainstream media, because they're not forcing her to go to court. I don't, a lot of, like, for instance, I saw a lot of news coverage saying that the defense is trying to force her to do something and force this and force that. Isn't the goal to figure out the truth and get justice for the victims, not necessarily just to get a conviction? That bothers me when people are trying to just do everything that they can to get a conviction, because then that's when you come into like situations like Brady, like the Brady law and the Giglio law, where, all right, we have a guy we suspect is the guy, but there might be some evidence that says he's innocent, so let's not look at that evidence. That's BS, 100% BS. If there is something out there that says that this guy could be innocent and proves that this guy may be innocent, then it needs to come forward, because, if we wait till June, which is not that long away from now, but if we wait until June, and he is innocent, then that's, a person who's innocent, who's locked behind bars that they shouldn't be, and a person out free that should be locked behind bars. There's two sides of that coin. And, I don't think the victims and the victim's family just want anybody to go to jail as much as they want the right person to go to jail. You get what I'm saying? So for me, it's about finding truth and finding out what happened, not necessarily just taking somebody off the street for the sake of taking somebody off the street so that there can be some sort of sense of security. I don't like that. And I don't like the fact that, people, especially mainstream media, are trying to, play this or picture this as a way that it's the defense trying to force somebody to do something because they're trying to intimidate her. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. And so if she said something during that investigation that implicates somebody else, that needs to come forward. It just does. It just does. And that's why I really am disliking like mainstream media and then them running with this naked guy and some of the other things that they've ran with. It's like I saw a clip where supposedly Ashley Banfield is going around telling people that she's trying to call Bryan Kohberger in jail. Like, did you make contact with him? It's just clickbait. No, I don't like it. Let's see. Let's continue. StreamYard, you're pissing me off. Unravel says BK parked in front according to the affidavit. I don't think he parked in front. According to the, I think it would have said that he parked in the front. They said that the affidavit stated that he attempted to park in front of the house, but couldn't, and then had to go do a 3-point turnaround and come back. It doesn't say that he parked in front of the house. I would assume that if he did, there would have been a video evidence of that. My assumption is that he parked on the side of the house towards the back, where whatever cameras that were available didn't capture him getting off of the vehicle or whatnot. Because remember, there's been a question as to how this person made entry into the house and exited the house early on in this investigation. And if they had video evidence of this person parking, and then there wouldn't be that question. But BK parked in front according to affidavit. A DM claims I heard, "Don't worry, I'll help you." Could he have said it to BF? Could BK know and research them so much he knew the psyche of his prey? maybe, but how does that? I don't think that exonerates BK at all, unless, let's just say somebody, that doesn't exonerate BK at all. That would be the opposite of what the defense wants. That would be evidence that would make him very guilty. If she came forward and said she saw somebody, she would have had to have said something to the nature like, this person told me that, and that person was not Bryan Kohberger. But I don't think so. Let's see. I'm gonna go through some PR stunt. Could this be a PR stunt? Maybe. I don't know. At the end of the day, the evidence that comes out, if it's strong against him, which I'm assuming that if they did get the right guy, it would be, right? The police were banking, based on the probable cause affidavit, that they were banking on finding a lot of information after the fact. They were banking on finding, plans or evidence of planning of this situation, probably DNA, blood evidence in the car, things like that. We just don't know the results of that. We do know that he did possibly virtually stalk some of these girls online. We do know that he possibly sent messages. Again, I'm saying possibly because this is all coming from mainstream media and not from police or from any kind of documentation that is out there. No court records, no court documents, subpoenas, things like that. So we do know that he possibly tried to slide into the DMs of some of the victims. And we also know that based on that information, that those messages were in the message request, which would indicate to me that none of these victims were following Coburger back or were friends with Coburger back. If it were like on Instagram or something like that, if it were on Facebook, it leads me to believe that they were not friends on Facebook, and which is why I would have gone to that, that file, so to speak, of message request. So we do know those things, but we don't know, what happened afterwards. We don't know if he had maps, if he had images, or if he'd pulled up, for instance, Zillow, or even the interior of the house, something like this, where he can figure out where the house is and whatnot. But while I have this up, let's look at it. Let's go down here. So this is where Bethany was at. This is Bethany's room. Right here on the first floor, right next to the front door. What could she have seen if this person went from the sliding glass door up the stairs, down, committed the crime up here with Kaylee and Madison, came back down and came over here? I'm not sure she could have seen much unless she exited her room and walked up the stairs. She would have had to have heard something and also walked up the stairs to see what the commotion was about. Maybe perhaps that's what she did. She may have done that. We don't know. But she definitely, in my opinion, would have heard the commotion, the thud, and everything that occurred in this room. Maybe she heard one of Ethan or Xana say a name. Maybe they said, "What are you doing, John Doe?" That's quite possible. And maybe that's the evidence that she has. Just speculation. This room, this is downstairs room. This is an empty room, I believe. So just a quick look at the house. Let's see. Blue for president. Present, sorry. Let's see, we'll go through these. See, that is possible. If he said, "Don't worry, I'm here to help you," with someone they knew, then that would exonerate Coburger if he is innocent, right? Let's see. I think Ann Taylor is way over her head and should not be on this case, period. Not that I think Coburger is innocent. I don't know. I think that there was that they got some more some more help from the state. I'm not sure. Let's see. JLR's video saying she don't have to go to Idaho, but has to be interviewed by the defense. Yeah, that was the agreement that they made. They made an agreement that she doesn't have to go testify in court, but that she could go and do an interview. Now, this helps out the defense in a huge manner because since it's not a disposition or testimony, the prosecution isn't privileged to this information through discovery. And so what that means is they're going to know what Bethany is saying when court comes and when the the prosecution, interviews her or talks to her, and then the defense has the opportunity to cross-examine. They're going to know what she stated in this interview, and the prosecution may not. Now, of course, they're probably going to ask her, like, so what did they ask you? What did they say? But in my opinion, that's probably going to be a very lengthy conversation that they're going to have, that defense team, and on purpose. That way, not everything comes out. And they're not necessarily going to ask straight, direct questions. They're going to try to get a picture painted and start from the beginning and go on and things like that. So, but yeah, they did agree. Let's see. StreamYard, you suck. R. Brown says, what about if she knew DM was high? Wouldn't that discredit DM's statement? It would discredit her statement, but it wouldn't exonerate Coburger. You know what I'm saying? So just because she was high and maybe perhaps she said she saw somebody, maybe she didn't see anybody, right? Let's just say she didn't, and she lied about seeing someone. That doesn't exonerate Coburger. That doesn't mean that it wasn't Coburger. So to me, it has to be something to the effect where putting somebody else out there. Let's see. I do think Dylan called from upstairs like people thought, and I think that is one of the reasons why they were able to use their phone information as a way to determine the time of the event, right? She could have said, I made calls. They go look at the phone logs, look at the phones. Okay, yeah, she made a call at 4:20 in the morning. It helps you identify the time frame in which this situation had occurred. Had been reported earlier that she did not spend the night there. I'm not sure about that because it was reported early that she was that they were at home since the beginning. In fact, you can go to the very first press conference that's out there. The police indicate that she was home by 2:00, and all of them were home and asleep by a certain time. Right, by 1:56, I think it was 1:45 that they were home. I think they actually put her back at the house at 1:00. I think it was Chief Fry. He had stated something to the effect that, I'll see if I can find it in a minute, that the victims, the two surviving victims, were also out in the town, but back home by 1:00. Now, I don't think we know where Dylan was that night. It doesn't say that she was at Sigma Chi. Sigma Chi was Ethan, Xana, and Bethany. At the corner club was Madison and Kaylee. We also know that Jack Decor was at the corner club with them, and we also know that Hoodie Guy, which some speculate is Jack Showalter, at the corner club, and that Adam Lauda was at the corner club. And so we don't know where Dylan was up until the point where she got home. Let's see. Yeah, Ethan's sister-in-law had stated that. I think Kaylee dated BK and he disrespected her, and Adam heard the story, and Hoodie Guy was trying to watch out for them. Jack must have heard about it. I mean, that's quite possible, but if you go to Chronicles of Olivia, she interviewed the Goncalves family. When she got disrespected in that date, she called Jack and told Jack about it. So he was aware of that situation. Is the rest of that true, though, that maybe Adam also heard about that story? Maybe Jack didn't want anybody to know that Kaylee had already gone on a date There was rumors that the reason why he didn't answer the phone during the time of the commission of the crime was because his friends were making fun of him, saying that he was, whooped or whatever, right? And so not to answer and this, that, and the third, that he was playing video games with his buddies. Now, if that were true, they could be like saying that because, man, she's already dating people. Y'all been together for so long. Y'all break up for a week and a half and she goes on a date. Dude, don't be that guy. Let her work for it, right? And that makes sense. That makes sense. And maybe perhaps Madison did tell Adam, and maybe that was something that Jack didn't want out there because he knew how his buddies would react to him. They tell him to, find somebody else or whatever the case may be. And, that's quite possible. That's quite possible. That does make a lot of sense. Thank you, Ruth, for that. Let's see. Wouldn't that mean she meant what she said by using the word exculpatory? Sorry, a little confused. So the word exculpatory means that it's information that would lead to the innocence of the person that is being accused of the crime. And so whatever statement that she said would have to would be evidence that would lead to Bryan Kohberger's innocence. It would have to be based on this information that we have. And this is also assuming that everything's correct, that it is a unique information to her and to only her. So it would have had to have happened that night based on what she saw and heard. It would have happened to have been during the commission of the crime that maybe perhaps she heard something or saw something that exonerates Bryan Kohberger as the person. That's the way I break down that information. It can't be something from Sigma Chi because there was other people there at Sigma Chi that could testify to a threat, for instance, if there was one. Right? It wouldn't just be unique to her. So that also leads me to believe that perhaps maybe the person that she identified at that house is somebody that Dylan didn't know. Now, I don't know how long Dylan and Bethany were in that house or how long they've been friends or if they even were friends with the roommates. Again, that roommate situation was based on sororities that were in place and based on students. So there was a lot of turnover there. It's very probable and likely that both of these people were fairly new to the residence, especially given where they were in the house. Bethany was on the first floor, so I can assume that she was probably the newest to the bunch, and going up to the second floor would probably be those that had been there a while, and the third floor, those that were there the longest or had the most seniority, were seniors, something to that effect, right? So let's think about it. And this is a good question. This is making my mind think. So whoever she identified, man, because she would have had to have recognized them. And I don't know how long she knew these other folks. Now, is it possible that she was introduced to some of these people throughout parties and things of that nature? Very much so, and very well likely, but if Bethany had only been there for, this happened November 13th. When did the semester start? Probably in September. So let's just put 15 weeks there at tops. It's a little bit less than 4 months, probably closer to 12, maybe about three months there that she lived there. That's very interesting. If it was somebody that she knew, but somebody that Dylan didn't know, that's the part that makes me think. That's interesting. Thank you for that. Yeah, we have 833 people in here right now. Let's get that up. Come on. And also hit that subscribe button, y'all. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Erica. What if BF and DM got the hell out of there with someone else in a white car and sped off at 4:20 a.m. freaking out? They didn't want to admit they knew earlier. Doesn't really explain why that white car though was driving around, suspiciously prior to 4:20, and the timing. We have to remember the timing in which this happened. A lot of folks are thinking that this guy had 16 minutes to commit this crime. That's not necessarily true. The probable cause affidavit says that he turns down the street at 4:04. He still has to go to, that apartment complex area. I think it was apartment 502, do a turnaround, come back, almost park, continue forward, do another 3-point turn, come back, and then park. I don't assume that it didn't state that he was doing this quickly. I'm assuming he's creeping. He's, checking out the house while he's doing it. So he's driving kind of slow. My assumption is that all of that probably took about 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes, but 3 minutes at the minimum. So that's 4:07. He's seen traveling at a high rate of speed at 4:20 down Walensa Drive. So he probably got out of there at 4:19. So you're looking at about 12 minutes there. At 4:17, you hear the dog barking on the audio camera next door. That leads me to believe that he had already committed the crime upstairs on the 3rd floor, maybe perhaps opened the door to Kaylee's room where the dog was at. The dog saw him, started barking. And so within 2 minutes from that point, he then goes downstairs and commits the crime downstairs with 2 people possibly are awake. It is what it is. It's crazy. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down a little bit, see if I see anything else. Thank you very much, Rosie. We appreciate you being here. Oh, everything just jumped. I'm going to see if there's anything else because we're getting kind of short on time now. I think it's odd. Payne, Gunnarsson, first officers on scene, possible connection still has Pennsylvania, a lot of. So, yeah, there apparently, and Payne wasn't first on scene. Payne was the investigating officer that arrived and went through the scene. It was Gunderson and Nunez that were first on scene. Now, Payne, supposedly, somebody had purchased a house next door to the Coburger's house with the last name Payne as well. So that was pretty interesting. Hey, what's up? Publicly buzzed in the house. If you guys haven't checked them out, check them out. Oh, yeah, I'm way behind. This one I was on mute. Let me go down a little bit. Yeah, I muted myself. That's what happens when I'm by myself. I apologize. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down to the new comments just so I can catch up some of the later ones, the newer ones. We don't know the real car GPS data, so it might not be that strange. Might not be his car on camera. Well, that's true. We don't know that information. I wonder what model his car was and if it had GPS. I'm sure they do. Yeah, there's so much we don't know yet. Let me pull this out. I don't believe BF slept through all that. The monitor on another house, or the monitor in the other house next to the house, picked up parts of the noise. No way did she sleep. I don't think so either. I really don't. Now, perhaps maybe during that phone call that Dylan made to everybody else, maybe she did recognize somebody. Maybe she recognized that person as being one of Ethan's friends, and saying, "Oh, it's just Ethan's friend." They were having a heated argument or something. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think she did either. No way she did. I heard somewhere that Maddie and DM had a fight right before 11:13. I heard that as well. I haven't seen anything that confirms that though. Exculpatory is any evidence that favors the defendant may or may not be exonerating, but merely favors him. Let's look that up. I looked it up the other day just to make sure. Exculpatory is a criminal law. Exculpatory evidence such as a statement tending to excuse, justify, or absolve the alleged fault or guilt of a defendant. In other words, evidence that is favorable to the defendant, in contrast to inculpatory evidence that tends to stress guilt. And so, yeah, it's favorable to the defendant, but it is favorable evidence that is tending to excuse, justify, absolve, and absolve the alleged fault or guilt. And so, going against what Dylan Mortenson stated, or it merely being that, doesn't really absolve his guilt, because Dylan Mortenson doesn't identify Bryan Kohberger as the guy. She only identifies a person of a certain height, weight, and stature. So, in my opinion, it's not that. It's not going against her because, like I said, she doesn't identify Coburger at that house. Now, if she identified Coburger at the house and Bethany then said, no, she told me it was somebody else, then yeah, I would definitely tend to side with that aspect of it. But because that's not the case in this situation, she didn't identify who he was. I tend to believe that she identified somebody else at that house, or possibly recognized someone's voice. But thank you guys so much for being here. I have gone a couple of minutes over my time frame. I want to thank everybody. Tomorrow night, me, myself, Blue, and Jaime are going to be back on answering some more questions. We might take some phone calls. Please hit that like and subscribe button, things of that nature. We appreciate everybody. We appreciate all the new members as well. Thank you guys. With that being said, I'm going to be on out of here. We have a doctor's appointment to get to. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.